You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, this is another episode of Tiffany's Take where I answer your money questions. So if you want your question answered on the podcast, go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/ask Tiffany, and I'll be more than happy to answer. So for today's episode, I had someone ask, okay, Tiffany, I need more money. How do I get more money in my career? And so, and this could pertain to whether you're working for someone or you're working as an entrepreneur. But their question was, look, I just need more money, which honestly, sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it's just a matter of managing what you have. Sometimes it's just a matter of cutting expenses. But for the purposes of this episode, I'm just going to directly answer their question and how to make more money in your current role or industry. So first and foremost, depending on what your industry is, you may need to acquire additional certifications or degrees. Now, I bring this up as number one because a lot of times people get very, very comfortable with where they are, what they're doing, so on and so forth, that they don't recognize that, hey, if you just did a little more extra to get a certification or a little more extra to get a degree behind your name, it actually can make you more money. So how this kind of happened in real life was one of my clients, very, very talented at his job as an electrician for a company. And I said, have you ever thought about asking your company to pay for your electrical certification? And he never thought about that. And so I said, that is absolutely what you need to do. It's right in line with what you're already doing. So the chances of them saying yes is pretty high. And then also you could use that certification to do work outside of the company as long as, it doesn't conflict. And he went and asked, and lo and behold, boom, they said, sure, go ahead. We would love to sponsor this for you. So now he's able to get an electrical certification and be certified in it. So that way he can take that skill and knowledge and make more money. So all of that to say, highly recommend looking at what type of certifications or degrees are available in your field, and then see, okay, what are some steps that I can take to get there? I had a client that loved doing hair. She decided that she wanted to get her hair certification, went ahead and did that. Now she's making a lot more money than, when she was just doing hair out of her house. For me, for instance, when I was in HR, I negotiated, which I'll talk about a little later, for HR certification. That helped propel me to the next position. So just think about what type of certifications or degrees are available that you can acquire and that can potentially help you out in a big way. Second, I wanted to bring up networking. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Tiffany, I know I need to network, but hear me out. Networking is crucial to advancing your career, especially in a, kind of expedited way. I network my little heart out wherever I am. I love networking. Now, not everybody is an extrovert like me, which I completely understand, but just as simple as asking your friends and family, hey, if they're in a position that you would love to have, do an informational interview. Or if they know someone that's in a position that you would love to have, say, hey, can you connect us so we can do an informational interview? Check out LinkedIn. If there's a company that you really, really want to work for, I actually had a student do this. She really, really wanted to work for Disney because she loved illustrating. She went to LinkedIn, she found somebody that worked at Disney doing illustrations and did an informational interview. What that did for her was open up the door for internship, right? Because they're like, oh, this person's really interested in the field, really interested in getting to know what I do. Let me give them a shot firsthand. And so you never know what type of opportunities will arise just from networking with people. A lot of positions that I've held, not just in career, but outside of career, just, being on boards or what have you, all came from networking. So I stress this so much with my students, and I'm stressing it now. It doesn't matter how old you are, get out there and network. That can open the door for new opportunities for you. I also, along that same line, want to point out seeking out mentorship and coaching. One of the reasons why I progressed in my career so fast is that I had a mentor that was coaching me, teaching me the way, right? Her passion was to teach other Black males and females, with degrees and stuff, how to navigate the corporate arena. And guess what? I navigated it perfectly. She said that I'm one of her best students, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And it wasn't until I seeked out her mentorship and she decided to mentor me and coach me through the process that helped me out. So please, it doesn't matter where you are in your career, there's always someone that's a step ahead of you, or there's always someone that can help you make it to the next step. Seek out who those mentors are, even if you wanted to change careers. Mentorship I consider it crucial to career success or business success. So make sure you're seeking out those mentors and coaches. And I actually have quite a bit of people that mentor under me or purchase my business consulting. And I love helping small business owners or people that are in careers kind of navigate, maybe pay raises and things like that. But you have to reach out to these people. Now, I will put a word of caution out there. Not everybody's meant to be your mentor. So even if there's someone that you really, really love and you're like, oh my gosh, I really, really want, to do this with this person, it's okay if they say no. Find someone else, because what you don't want is someone that's really not into mentoring you or really into coaching you along. And they just doing it because you asked them. You want somebody that's going to be really invested into your success. So make sure that you're seeking out the right mentorship. I'll go ahead and add that in, the right mentorship. And that can help you tremendously. Also, I want to add taking on extra responsibilities at work. Now, you have to be careful with this because you need, work-life balance. But I will say it does make a difference when, your manager or the company sees that you're like, you know what, I want to lead this project, or I want to join this committee, so on and so forth, or volunteering for different things. People notice that stuff. And I know somebody might be listening like, Tiffany, I don't even like these people. I don't want to do any extra. Like, I'm already showing up. You mean I have to do extra? But honestly, when you take on the role of what's considered intrapreneurship, and if you want to learn more about that term, I did a whole article on it on my website. I'll make sure I put a link in the show notes. But when you take on that mentality of intrapreneurship, actually treating that job like it was your own, then people will notice that. And not only will they notice that, you will be rewarded in some cases. I'm not going to say all cases, but you will be rewarded for that. Which brings me to my next point. And you need to have a career advancement toolkit. So what is a career advancement toolkit? That is something that showcases your accomplishments, strengthens your value proposition. You want to learn how to negotiate your salary or hourly rate, and it allows you to identify career growth opportunities. So the first thing I wanted to highlight with that is that showcase your accomplishments. One downfall that I see people do when they're at a job or even when they are their own business owner is that they never showcase their accomplishments. They don't keep a record of any achievements they've had, positive feedback, recognitions, awards, so on and so forth. So when it comes time for the annual review, or if it comes time to where a client reaches out like, hey, have you done this before? You have no idea. And so what I like to do, so when I was in corporate, I kept a list. I kept a list of everything that I achieved in that year. So that way when, not open enrollment, when reviews came around, I knew exactly what I did. And I showcased my value. And I always received the highest pay raise available because I showcased my value. I told them how valuable I was to this organization. And this is what I did. This is the information to back it up. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I do the same thing. I keep a record of everywhere I'm featured. I keep a record of all of the positive feedback I receive. And you know what that does? It helps other people make a determination about me. So I've gotten clients because they're like, oh, I know this person and they referred me to you. Or, oh, I saw, your Google reviews and that's why I made the decision. So make sure that you are collecting and keeping a record, regardless of whether you're in corporate, working at a manufacturer facility, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're doing, keep a record of the wins that you have. So that way, when it comes time to negotiate, which, I'll hit on a little bit, when it comes to negotiate, you have all of your data, you have all of your information in a row, and it's going to be hard for them to say no. Okay. So make sure that you keep a record of that stuff. Also, make sure that you can articulate what your unique skills, experience, expertise is. Make sure you are telling them what you bring to the table, even if it's something that you do outside of work or outside of your business, you're volunteering. How does that translate to what you're doing in your current role? And make sure that you can articulate that. What does that look like? Even if you volunteer and you're serving food for the homeless, right? How does that, and sorry, don't mean homeless, unsheltered. How does that translate to your current role? To give you an example, I could say I serve food to the unsheltered is one of my passion projects. And the reason that that translates over to what I do now is because I care about the people. I care about whether they have food on their table. I am one of the people that organize this. So it shows my leadership ability. I know that I'm a good leader because I'm able to manage a kitchen full of, let's say, 5 or 6 people as we do this. And so that's how you can kind of articulate, even if it's unrelated experience, skills translate. So keep that in mind. When it comes to negotiating, make sure I did a whole article on negotiation tips. I think I put like 15 in there. So go check that out. I'll make sure it's in the show notes. But when it comes to negotiation, make sure you're doing your research. Make sure that you're being prepared to present your case based on your research, your accomplishments, your skills, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter if you're in career, it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, it's the same thing. You still have to showcase what your value is. And you can negotiate, even as a business owner, what your pay is going to be. So keep that in mind. And I'm not going to go into too much depth with that because I did with the article. I'll just put it in the show notes, but check that out, y'all. I don't care what you're doing. Check that out because I was dropping so many gems on how I negotiate. And it's something that you definitely want to tap into. All right. So I know this episode is going a little long, so I'll go ahead and wrap up. But really, y'all, just make sure that you're doing your continuing education. There's a saying where it says, the person that thinks they know everything knows nothing at all. Always be learning. Always be learning. It's so important to learn on a daily basis. And even if you have a mentor, you are teaching that mentor. And the mentor is teaching you. It's an exchange. And so you're doing these exchanges on a daily basis. Just make sure that you keep your mind open enough to intake the information that is coming to you. Don't go into situations where you're like, oh, well, I already know this. I already know that. I already know this. Once you do that, you're blocking off any of the good tidbits that you could have received. So make sure that you're always educating yourself, whether it be in interactions, whether it be with books, whether it be with movies, it doesn't matter. Everything around us plays a role in education. Make sure that you're also understanding your market trends. So is your career, or what technologies are coming out that could interfere with your career or help your career? So to give you an example of how I use that in business, AI, everybody's talking about AI and they're like, oh my gosh, AI is going to take over. It's going to take jobs. It's, going to do this, do that. I'm using AI to help my business, And so you can take the route of, oh, the sky is falling, or you can look at these new trends and these new technologies and say, okay, how can I leverage this for myself versus trying to combat against it? So highly recommend that. Also, make sure you expand your reach. So, to give you an example of how this played out in business, when I first started, I was like, oh, I only want to help, these certain people that do this certain thing and so on and so forth. But come to find out, the people that come to me um, don't fit any of those boxes that I had previously. And so just thinking outside of who you think your target market is, it may can look many different ways. And so just keep your mind open to that. And like I said before, upskill constantly. Identify gaps in your skill set and work to fill them by learning new tools, techniques, and approaches that can make you more versatile and valuable in your role, whether it's a small business owner or whether it's in career. Make sure you are upskilling. There is always a gap. It's up to you to identify where those gaps are. I know where my gaps are. One of them is sales. Okay. But guess what? I have been intentionally getting books from the library, learning more about sales, learning more about marketing a little more, just doing things to kind of fill that gap, because I know that although I don't love it, it's something that I have to do in order to run my business. And even if I decide to hire somebody to do sales, I still need to know the basics so that way I can be well prepared if they have any questions, or if, so nobody can get over on me as well. So always upskill constantly. So I know I gave you a lot to think about, but I wanted to thoroughly answer the question of how can I attract or make more money? And these are some ideas and some ways that you can do so. So if you want your question answered on the podcast, go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/Ask Tiffany, and I'll be more than happy to answer for you. So until next time, bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.